Finishing a first draft is probably the greatest step in the entire novel writing journey, and most people never get there. But what do you do next? Just knowing that you need to revise and edit your novel isn't necessarily helpful. And if you're planning to share that story with the world, there's just no getting around the fact that you do need to edit and revise. And that goes way beyond checking your spelling and punctuation. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what to do with that unwieldy first draft without crying more than maybe twice. In case you're new here, hi, I'm Katri, I'm your new writing bestie, and this is Protagonist Crafts, the place for people who are kind of obsessed with that whole writing thing. So once you've finished your first draft, the first step is take a break. How long that break should be depends on you, but you do need to put some distance between yourself and the first draft to sort of get out of the whole mind space where you were when you were writing. Mind space, is that even a word? I think I'm at headspace or mindset. At least I didn't say headset, all right. When I recently finished a first draft, I only took a week away from it, and part of that was because I already had like a longer break in the middle while I was recovering from COVID and my brain wasn't working. But maybe you need a month, I don't know. But the important thing is to take a break. And then step 2 is read through your drafts and take notes. I would recommend that you keep a list of overall fixes that concern your story as a whole or multiple scenes, and then scene-specific fixes. If your draft isn't organized by scenes, then at this point, I would recommend that you do cut it up somehow. And when I say scenes, I do mean scenes, not chapters. You shouldn't actually have been thinking about chapters at this point anyway, but that is a subject for a different video. If you don't know what a scene is or how to tell where a scene starts and ends, just divide your story in any way that feels meaningful to you. It might just be that when you change location, there is a new scene. At this point, when you're reading through your draft and taking notes, think of your plot as a whole. Don't think of any details yet. I mean, yes, if you do realize that you need to include this and this detail for the plot to make sense, then do make a note of that. But don't concern yourself with like setting details or what a character should be wearing there or something like that if it isn't relevant to the plot. There's no need to fine-tune your writing if the overall structure isn't solid yet. And at this point, you also need to consider what needs to be deleted, added, or moved around, and make notes of those things as well. And after you've read through your first draft and made all those notes, it's time to start actually applying those changes to your story. And your second draft is probably going to be the most labor-intensive part of your revisions. So I would recommend you do it in order, starting from the beginning and going to the end. Often, when you're revising and editing, you don't need to always start from the first page and then proceed all the way to the end. But at this point, you do need to think of the whole thing. Are you going to focus on just the scene-specific fixes first or just the overall fixes? That is up to you. What I did was that I went through the scenes and applied all the scene-specific fixes. And then occasionally I would look at the overall fixes and be like, oh yes, well, I could apply this here. And then I crossed it out from the list. But what I'm going to do next, I'm almost finished with my second draft, is that I will then look at the remaining overall fixes and then apply those later, just jumping here. My first drafts, they're often very skinny. And when there are characters talking, it's often just like talking heads. That's just how I see it, and then I fatten it up later. So if that is your problem as well, you can decide whether you're going to fatten it up here, add some descriptions and pacing and stuff, or are you going to dedicate a whole draft just for that, maybe draft 3. If, on the other hand, you have way more writing that you're going to actually need, you can, start cutting it out here or maybe do that later. And during this second draft, you can also start taking notes for these smaller details, like highlighting a piece of text and be like, make this sound more badass and stuff like that. When you have a solid outline, it's really going to help you edit your story as well. But when I created my new course, Your Plot from A to Z, I made sure that you could apply all of it to your first draft as well. It's going to give you a true understanding of your plot so that you never have to refer to a plot diagram again. If you don't want to invest in the full course yet, you can get just the workbook, and then if you decide to upgrade, you get $10 off. So essentially, I'll be paying you back for the workbook. So do check it out, whether you're still outlining or you're editing your first draft, and I will see you in another video.